Hi there, I'm Roxane Lessa, and I'm showing you how to do some easy free motion bobbin quilting. All you need to start with is a little quilt sandwich to practice on, your favorite snips, maybe a pair of free motion quilting gloves, whatever foot you decide to put on your machine. I have a darning foot. Mine looks like this. And I've got my feed dogs dropped. But you can do straight line stitching for this too. It won't matter. So basically, you can use this technique for any threads that give you fits. Here are some sample threads that you can put in your bobbin and make your quilts look shiny, spectacular, and gorgeous. Sometimes they're a little hard to work through the needle or they just don't fit. So what do? Put them in the bobbin and turn your quilt upside down, and these threads won't break on you. It's easy. I'll show you how. Okay, so now we have our wound up bobbin and we've got our loosened bobbin case, and we're going to pop that in there and gently pull it through, and you don't want it to get caught anywhere. You want it to be nice and able to pull through easily. So that's all set to go in the machine now. And now I'm going to take my, just move the camera a little bit. Now I'm going to take my monofilament needle thread, and I'm going to pull up that glitzy razzle dazzle. You can see it coming up there. So I'm going to pull it out. I've got a nice long tail to start sewing with. So you can see here I've done some straight line stitching with the feed dogs up with the gold glitter thread, and I've got some free motion stitching on this side, and what I'm going to do is use that as a guide for my bobbin stitching, and I'm going to stitch over those lines with my feed dogs down and my darning foot on, and it will, when I turn it over, you'll see the razzle dazzle free motion stitching on the other side. Okay, so now I'm ready to sew. So I'm going to pull up the bobbin thread just like I always do. I decided to use white so it would show up better on the other side. And then put my needle down. And I'm just going to hang on to those thread tails just for a minute. I'm going to take a few stitches, get that thread tail out of the way, and then I'm going to follow this purple line as much as I can until I run out of bobbin thread. My darning foot is clear, so it makes it a little easier to see where I'm going. seam stitch here. And I think I'm going to run out of bobbin thread pretty soon. Yep, I already have. Okay, so now normally I would have more bobbin thread. And I want to leave myself a longer tail than that normally. But you can see the bobbin stitching from the other side. And it looks like my tension's a little bit loose or tight. I'm not sure which, so I would go back and double check that because the stitches aren't real even. But that is basically how you do bobbin stitching. It's a great way to get a lot of texture, a lot of impact, a heavier line for areas that you really want to emphasize. Not to mention glitter and pow. Okay, and the last thing you want to do is bury these long thread tails. You can't do it with our normal tiny stitches because it'll make too big of a lump with that heavy bobbin thread. So I'm using my handy dandy needle threader here, and I'm taking both strands of thread, pulling it through a large-eyed needle, hopefully, and then I'm just going to slip it underneath between the layers. And make sure it doesn't show on the right side, and just pull it on through. And if you want to make it go a little further, just put it back in the same hole. Pull it between the layers. And then all you have to do is snip off that end. And you can't see where you started or stopped. It's right on there. And there it is on the reverse side. So I hope you try this little technique. It's really fun to do bobbin stitching. And that's it for now. So I'm bringing up my bobbin thread. You can see it a little better now. Leaving myself a nice long tail to bury later. Whoops, it's a little too long, but get the idea. Put my needle back down. Get those threads out of the way. Okay, I'm just going to stitch, it's sort of a slow meandering line. And I can flip it over right here and see how that looks. Not too bad, actually. It's pulling up a little bit, which tells me maybe I have to tighten my bobbin tension a little, but for now I'm just going to pull that off, and I'm going to leave myself a long tail again to bury and just cut it off. And there you have it. A long, thick, glittery line of free motion stitching. So I'm going to show you how to bury those threads again. So I've got a large-eyed needle and a needle threader. I'm basically going to put the little end there through the needle, and I'm going to take my long tail end and I'm going to pull it through the eye of the needle, and then I am just going to stick that through the quilt sandwich to the other side, and I actually have my monofilament thread dragged with me too, which you cannot see because it's too fine. And what I'm going to do now is just go through that hole and go through all the, not all the layers, just into the middle of the quilt sandwich and pull that thread through. Now you can't see where it came from, and then I can just take my snips and snip it right off. And you can't see where it started or stopped. And you can do the same thing with this thread tail. But for now, that is what it looks like.